Yes. Hello and welcome to Psych Talks 2.0, the season 2, where we believe in listening, learning, and empowering. I'm your host today, Dr. Ashia, and today's episode is all about going beyond the spectrum, redefining autism series. So, this is one of the most awaited series, as I know. Many autism parents would be uh, eager to know the insights about this. But beyond the natural and the common scenarios of doctors and researchers talking about it, today we have a special guest with us who is a dedicated ABA therapist, registered behavior technician with years of experience in the trenches of applied behavior analysis. And she is currently pursuing a master's in Arizona State University, Masters in Special Education, and she's working towards becoming a board certified behavior analyst. But if you ask her, her most important title isn't about degree. She is first and foremost a working mother of three, an autism advocate, and the founder of a thriving parent support group that helps dozens of families navigating autism and easing their lives. Here we warmly welcome our guest. She is actually, I believe, truly a voice for our children. So, warm welcome to you, Ms. Anjesha Nurullah.
Thank you so much for such a warm welcome. I talk about this as a professional, but I also talk about it as a mom who knows exactly what it feels like how to have a meltdown happen in the middle of the night. So, to every parent listening, I see you. I see the bruises on your arms and the exhaustion in your eyes. When we see a child biting, hitting, or running away, we are looking at the tip of an iceberg. Most people try to fix the tip of the iceberg, but today we are going underwater to look at the base biology, the communication, and the sensory needs.
Okay. So, talking about ABA, people believe it's purely behavioral, right? But you talk a lot about the body, the somatic connection. So, what should a parent look at the child's physical health before they look into the actions?
Um, that is such a vital question. In the world of ABA, we often focus on the ABC, antecedent behavior and consequence, but we sometimes forget the O, the organism. If a child's body is in crisis, their behavior will be in crisis. I I always tell parents you cannot effectively treat a behavioral problem if you are actually facing a medical one. So think of it in this way. If you have a massive toothache or haven't slept in 2 days, how patient are you? So you're likely irritable. You might snap at people, and you certainly aren't ready to learn a new difficult skill. So our children are the same, but often without the verbal tools to say, hey, my stomach hurts, when we ignore the body, we end up punishing a child for being in pain. So, this is why we look at the gut brain axis. So, the gut is filled with neurotransmitters. You're a doctor, you understand this better. So, if there is an inflammation, constipation, or reflux, it sends a danger signal to the brain. So, the brain then goes into fight or flight mode. So, I've worked with a child who was nonverbal and began hitting walls, pillars, and tables with incredible force. To an outsider, it looked like a random aggression or a bad behavior. But when we looked at his biological baseline and found he was severely constipated, so he wasn't trying to break the wall, he was trying to push back against the internal pressure in his gut. So the physical impact of hitting a hard surface provided a counter pressure. So that temporarily distracted his brain from the discomfort in his stomach. So once we worked with his medical team to address his gut health, the aggressive wall hitting dropped by nearly 80% without any behavioral punishment at all. So before you assume a behavior is a choice, ask yourself these three questions. Did they get a full night's rest? Are they regulated nutritionally? Are they eating well? When was their last comfortable bowel moment? So if a new intense behavior starts suddenly, treat it as a medical symptom first. Check for ear infections, toothaches, or gastrointestinal distress. When the body is calm, the mind is ready to learn. By looking at the body first, we show our children empathy instead of just authority. We aren't just managing a case here, we are helping a human being feel better in their own skin.
Okay. So my next question would be, when a child hits, bites, or shows physical symptoms or runs away, people usually assume it as a tantrum, but it feels like the child is attacking the parent. But in that case, how do we shift the perspective from tantrum to language?
Uh, this is perhaps the hardest shift for any parent to make, because when a child's teeth sink into your arm or they run away toward a busy street, your own fight or flight system spikes. So it feels personal. It feels like a failure of authority or lack of love. But as a behavioral detective, the first rule is this: behavior is never a problem, behavior is a messenger. When a child is nonverbal or has limited communication, they are essentially living in the world where they have no voice. So if you were in a foreign country, couldn't speak the language, and were being forced to do something scary or painful, you would eventually use your hands, your feet, your teeth to make it stop. To shift your perspective, you have to stop looking at the action and start looking at the intent behind it. So in my practice, we categorize it almost every crisis behavior into four specific messages. So first would be escape. This is too hard, loud, or long. I need to get away from here. And the second would be attention, for attention. I need you to look at me right now. And that hug which you gave me before didn't work at all. So no, the next would be for getting access to any tangible items, like I want specific toy or a snack or the iPad, and I don't know how to wait for it. And the third category would be sensory. My body feels itchy or empty inside, and this movement fixes it. So that's why I'm doing it. So I worked with a child who hit everyone. For a long time, the people around him saw it as an aggression. But when we looked closer, he was actually speaking three different things with the same hand. So he would hit his mom when he was excited, like it was an attack. It wasn't an attack. It was physical shout of joy, which he couldn't express with his words, because he didn't have the words to say I'm having so much fun. He hit his mom. And the second, he would hit if you asked him to put his shoes on, like give him any task. This way, this was his way of saying, I'm not ready to leave, or those shoes feel stiff or uncomfortable. So that comes under the escape thing. He doesn't want to do that. So the next would be he would hit a pillar or a wall to feel the vibration in his joints. That's the sensory thing. So once his mom realized that the hit was actually an I love you, her heart changed. She stopped reacting with anger and started reacting with the translation to it. Like when the crisis happens, try to replace your judge hat with your detective hat by asking, if my child could speak perfectly right now, what would they be yelling? If they hit during transition, they are yelling, I'm scared of what's next. If they run in a store, they are yelling, it's too loud in here and I need air. If they bite themselves, they're yelling, I'm in so much pain. And I don't know how to say it. I don't know why. So once you identify the language, give them the better tool. If they hit for a break, give them a break. If they hit for a joy, teach high five. This is the appropriate way to do it. We don't just stop the behavior, We give them the more effective way to be heard. When you see a behavior as a language, the attack disappears and you become your child's advocate instead of their adversary. You aren't losing the battle here, you're finally winning the communication. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So let's talk about self-injurious behaviors, the things which we perceive as being dangerous or elopement. How do we decode them, and what are we in the middle of crisis in amidst of this self-injurious behaviors?
Of course, this is the emergency room of behavioral parenting. Like when your child is hitting their own head or sprinting toward a busy intersection, your heart is racing and your brain goes into survival mode. It is incredibly hard to be a detective when you are terrified yourself. So, but even in a crisis, these dangerous behaviors are a coded messages which your child is sending. So, if we can decode them, we can prevent the next one. So, self injury like head banging, biting oneself is rarely about wanting to hurt. It is mostly, almost always about regulation or communication. Sorry. It could be the sensory. Sometimes the world feels so chaotic, loud, or blurry to a child when they feel like they are floating away. So, hitting their head or biting their arm provides a sharp, intense sensation that grounds them back into their body. So, it could be a pain, as we discussed with gut health. If a child has a migraine or a ear infection, they can't describe. They might hit that area to drown out the internal throb with a different kind of sensation, or it could be a loudest no. If a child feels ignored when they say no with a whisper or a look, sometimes they just give a look. My daughter gives a look, and that means a no. She doesn't want to do it. So they might turn to SIV because they know it's the one last thing that guarantees an adult will stop everything and intervene. So when we see now elopement, when a child runs, they are either running towards something or running away from something. So they see a sensory joy of a park, water, or bright sign. They don't have the impulse control to wait and ask for permission. They just go. They just go to that place. So the environment has become a sensory minefield. Maybe a hand dryer in a bathroom went off, or grocery store lights became too much. So running is the emergency exit for them. So, in the moment, your priority is safety first. But while you are keeping them safe, ask yourself these three questions. What just changed? Did a noise start? Did I ask them to do a task? Or did someone enter the room? This tells you the trigger, why it happened. So, what stops the behavior? Now, if the behavior stops the moment you give them the iPad, it was likely to get access to any tangible things like iPad or toy or something. If it stops the moment you stop asking them to put on shoes, like you stop asking to do a task, it was likely escape. They didn't want to do the task and they just escaped. So is it rhythmic? If the self-injurious behavior is rhythmic and happens even when they are alone, no demands, nothing. So it is likely sensory. So they are trying to soothe their own nervous system. So I remember I worked with a child who would elope or begin property destruction, like hitting walls, making uh, here we have dry walls, right? So making holes in the walls. So we realized she was a sensory director. If the environment felt out of her control, she used these dangerous behaviors as her power moves. So she knew that if she put herself in danger, the work would stop immediately. So once we gave her a stop card that we actually respect, so she didn't need to put her body at risk to get our attention. During an self injurious behavior crisis, use block and redirect. Put a pillow or your hand, if safe, between the child and the hard surface. Don't use a loud stop. Sometimes parents say, "Stop, don't do it." So use a calm, low voice. Your big emotions often add fuel to their sensory fire. So when we decode danger, we stop seeing a wild child and start seeing a child who is desperately trying to survive a moment they can't handle. So safety keeps them alive today, and decoding keeps them safe tomorrow.
Let's talk about control. Some people, like some parents, feel that their child is being manipulative, they are ruling the home. So, is the child really manipulative there or something else goes on?
This is a question that brings a lot of guilt to parents. When your daily life, what you eat, where you go, how loud you can talk is dictated by a child's potential meltdown, it feels like you've lost the lead in your own home, and it feels like manipulation. But as a behavioral detective, I have to tell you, manipulation requires a high level of social reasoning that most of our kids aren't using in these moments. I don't say that they are not capable of, but these moments are the crisis moments. They're not using that here. Manipulation is like, if I do this, I will trick mom to do this, to that, to do that for me. So, what's actually happening is survival and predictability. So, for many of our kids, the world is loud, unpredictable place. So, imagine living in a room where the floor might turn into lava at any moment, or the lights might start screaming. You would try to control everything to stay safe. So, when a child rules the house, they aren't trying to be a boss, they are trying to be a director. Like, they are trying to keep the environment safe for themselves so their nervous system doesn't move into panic attack. So I worked with a nonverbal child who was the ultimate director. If she didn't want to do something or the room was too bright, she would use property destruction or like disrobing in public, like removing her clothes. So it looked like she was punishing her mom for asking her to work. She had a very low tolerance for sensory input. So she learned that those high intensity behaviors were the only things that worked 100% of the time to make it stop. Uh, it wasn't a plot to be mean, it was a learned emergency stop button over the years. So sometimes parents say that getting work done depends entirely on her mood. In my world, we don't call it mood, we call it internal regulation. If she wakes up with a headache or didn't sleep at all, her sensory battery would be at 1%. So any demand you place on her feels like asking her to run a marathon uphill. So on a good mood day, she has the energy to tolerate the lights, the people. When we say a child is ruling the house, what we are often seeing in the family, that the learned that has learned to walk on eggshells to keep that 1% battery from exploding. So now, how do we deal with this kind of situations? We don't take back control by winning the fight, we take it back by increasing their safety. Give them a way to say no or I need a break that doesn't involve a chair being thrown. If a stop card works, they don't have to use the power move at all. So instead of like forcing them to tolerate the bright kitchen, can we dim the lights for them? So use visual schedules that gives them predictability. So control often comes from fear of unknown. So if they know what exactly is going to happen next, then they won't use the uh, power moves at all. Give them control choices. This is like this works wonders. Instead of like saying put on your shoes, say do you want to wear blue shoes or red shoes? Like give them two choices to do. So they feel this. This gives the child the feeling of control they crave. So while you are still the one who's like directing the outcome. So when you stop seeing a manipulative child and start seeing a frightened director over there, your heart softens. So you stop fighting for compliance and start building a partnership with your child. So you aren't losing the lead, you are becoming the producer there who makes their world safe to live in. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. So, talking about the behaviors, some people complain, some parents actually say that they are confused with few behaviors, like the child spits or the child does repetitive touching. So, why does the child do so? And in that case, what should we do to manage without them feeling ashamed?
Okay. So, this is a question that often comes with a lot of quiet embarrassment for families. When a child is playing with saliva or constantly touching their belly button or even disrobing in public place, it can feel uh, socially isolating. Parents often worry, what will people think? Or is my child being gross on purpose? Like, as a behavioral detective, my first job would be is to remove the shame. These behaviors aren't about hygiene or being naughty. They are almost always about sensory exploration and tactile feedback. Like, our children often have a sensory system that is either hungry or overloaded. So when a child plays with a spit, they aren't looking to be messy. They are looking for a very specific tactile input. The saliva is cool, it's wet, it's stretchy. So, for a child with a high need for tactile feedback, the child of that feeling of stringing spit between their fingers is a fidget toy to them, which they carry with them 24/7. So, repetitive touching, like the belly button or certain skin areas, is often about proprioception, we call. So, it's a way of pressing a button on your own body to feel where they begin and world ends. It's grounding to them. So, I worked with a child who had a very intense routine, like she would play with her own spit, stringing it between her fingers, and then place it directly on her belly button. And her parents were desperate to stop that behavior. They had to bandage her fingers together and put her in a one piece jumpsuit. So she couldn't reach her belly button and she couldn't remove her clothes. So we realized that by just blocking the behavior, we were leaving her sensory hungry. So she was still craving that wet, stretchy feeling. So we didn't shame her. We gave her a sensory substitution. We provided cool, stretchy sensory slimes, gels. We used weighted lap pads to give her that center body pressure she was seeking from her belly button. So once her sensory cup was full and full of safe alternatives, the jumpsuit and the bandages weren't needed anymore. So the goal is to move from a stop that to try this instead. What is the child actually getting from a behavior? It's, if it's wet, give them water play or safe gels. If it's sticky, give them putty. You get the therapies, right? So that one. So if it's pressure, give them a tight hug or a compression vest. For older kids or teens, we don't say the behavior is bad, we say that this is a private behavior. We do that in the bathroom or bedroom, not in the kitchen, not in the hall. So this preserves their dignity while setting a social boundary, especially with things like disrobing or repetitive touching. Check for physical irritation. Is there a tag scratching them? Do they have an UTI? Are they constipated? As we saw in that boy who was having constipation. Sometimes the confusing behavior is just the child trying to fix a physical itch they can't reach. So create a yes space. If your child is seeking messy play, give them the dedicated bin of shaving cream. Shaving cream they love and they enjoy. The kids who seeks sensory input, they enjoy playing with shaving cream, slime, water beads. Tell them spit is for the bathroom. You can only spit there. But slime is for the bin. You can play with the slime and get the same feeling. So you're directing the need to safe place rather than shaming the child for having the need in the first place. So when you stop seeing mess and start seeing a sensory need, the shame evaporates. You are raising a child who is learning how to regulate a very sensitive body. And that is a journey you can be proud of, not ashamed.
So, understanding the why behind the reasons of behavior is one thing. But if we talk about another thing which people experience is how to be patient during these meltdowns. So, what is your patience protocol for parents who are at their, breaking point?
The, this is the reality that doesn't always make it into the textbooks. We don't find these in the textbooks. So it is easy for a therapist to stay patient for an hour long session, but it is different world when it is in 2 a.m. and you haven't slept and you are starting down the barrel of 2 hour meltdown. So when you are at your breaking point, your logical brain shuts off and your emotional brain takes over. So you aren't failing, you are human. To survive these moments, you need to practice a patience protocol, I call it, that is more about your own nervous system than it is about the child's. So you cannot calm a storm if you are in the storm yourself. So when the screaming starts, your body goes into the same fight and flight mode. So your heart rate spikes, and your child is who's already hypersensitive picks up on that vibration of stress, and it becomes a feedback loop. So before you say a word, walk to the other side of the room or step outside of the door for 10 seconds. Breathe. Tell yourself, my child is not giving me a hard time. They are actually having a hard time. So, the louder they get, the quieter you should become. Whispering forces the child to tune into your tone and prevents you from escalating into a shouting match. You don't have to like do the power struggle over there. They're actually escalated. So, you have to model your calmness into them. So when the meltdown hits a 60-minute mark, like your brain starts to tell you this lies. It says this will never end, or they are doing it to just spite me. So you need to anchor yourself in this, in the why. When a child has a meltdown for 2 hours, if her mom saw it as a disrespect, she would lose her patience in 5 minutes. But when she saw it as a sensory overload, she realized her daughter was short circuiting. You don't get a mad, sorry, you don't get mad at a power outage. You just wait for the breakers to reset. So burnout happens when we feel like we feel like we are making zero progress. To keep your patience, you need to see wins, no matter how tiny it is. This is where backward chaining uh, comes into place. So, for example, if you are trying to teach a child brush teeth, and it always ends in a meltdown, stop trying to do the whole task. You put the toothpaste on, you brush the teeth, you rinse them out, then you let them put the toothbrush back in the holder. So they finish the task. That they can do it easily. So they finished the task. They won. So you get to celebrate a successful completion instead of failed attempt. So tomorrow they would do the last two steps. Small wins are the fuel that keeps your patience tank hitting empty. Your patience tank would uh, not hit empty. You will be like constantly feeling better about your work. So on a low battery day, when you or your child are exhausted, you have to use this behavioral triage, I call it. So think of it like an emergency room. When a hospital is overwhelmed, they don't treat a broken finger while someone is having a heart attack. So they prioritize based on what is life threatening first. So in your home, when a meltdown is happening, or when your patient's battery is at 5%, you must use the same system to decide what to fight for and what to let go. So, like Like they say, pick and choose your battles. Pick and choose your own battles. So first comes the red level, which is like the safety zone, for safety first zone. The goal is to prevent the injury to the child or yourself or others. So during active aggression, hitting, biting, self injury, head banging, or dangerous elopement, running toward the street, nothing else matters right now except physical safety. So stop teaching. This is not the time to say we don't hit. Use minimal speech. Talk as little as possible, because they're not going to comprehend anything. They're already into crisis. Clear the room of other people or dangerous objects. Drop all demands. If they were supposed to be cleaning their room but they are now banging their head, the room cleaning is officially cancelled. So we are not doing that. We're just focusing on the safety first. So next come the yellow level, so the needs zone. The goal is to maintain basic human functioning and health. When the child is regulated but perhaps moody, tired, or slightly resistant, we need to keep the body healthy. But we can be flexible on how, like prioritize basics like eating, drinking water, using bathroom. If they won't sit at the table to eat, let them eat on the floor or while standing or running. If a full bath is causing a meltdown, use a wet cloth for sponge bath instead. If you're exhausted, stay in yellow level. Uh, don't push for something more, because they're already exhausted. So last comes green level, the growth zone. The goal is learning, chores, and skill building. Only when the child is in the green, meaning they are happy, um well rested, fed, and their sensory needs are met. Today is a great day to challenge them and learn something new. This is the time for flashcards, ABA programs, and chores. This is when you practice backward chaining to teach them how to put on socks to or brush teeth. You cannot teach a green level skill like a chore when a child is in red level state. The biggest mistake parents make is trying to force green level expectations like doing homework when a child is clearly in a red or yellow state. If your child wakes up at a yellow state, like constipated, didn't sleep, do not even attempt green level scores. Stay in yellow, focus on comfort. If a green activity flashcards turn into a red activity hitting, you must immediately downgrade. Drop the flashcards, move to red level safety protocols. If you are having a bad day and your patience level is thin, give yourself permission to stay in yellow level all day. It doesn't matter. If the kids are fed, safe, and clean, you have succeeded. The flashcards can wait till tomorrow, when like everyone's battery is recharged. So this triage system is the ultimate tool for managing expectations. So when you are in the green zone, you are a teacher. When things shift to a yellow or red zone, you pivot to being a protector. Most parent burnout happens because we try to be a teacher when our child needs a protector. If you are at a breaking point, drop the green level. We don't have to teach. The dishes don't get done, it's okay. If the math homework doesn't isn't finished because you chose to stay calm during a meltdown, that is a success. So that's not a failure, that's a success. So once the storm has passed and the child is asleep, give yourself grace. Don't focus on how loud it got. Ask, what was the trigger, and did I stay safe? If anyone is safe, you won the day. Patience isn't bottomless well, it's a battery that needs to be recharged. So, by using these protocols, you aren't just tolerating the meltdown, you are managing it like the expert detective you are.
So, coming to a general question, if a parent is listening to you and their child is really having a hard day today, so what would you say? What is the one thing you want them to hold on tonight?
If you're a parent listening to this and you are sitting in a quiet after a storm, maybe there are broken toys on the floor, or your arms are sore from blocking hits, or you just feel a heavy sense of defeat, the one thing I want you to hold on to is this: a hard day is not a failed day. So I've seen the most intense red level cases into turn into beautiful green level success stories. So, but those successes don't happen because a parent was perfect. They happen because a parent was persistent. Tonight I want you to look at your child while they are sleeping. In that moment of stillness, they aren't just a case study or a behavioral challenge. They are just a child whose nervous system was overwhelmed by a world that doesn't always speak their language. So before you close your eyes tonight, say this to yourself: my child had a hard time today, I had a hard time today, we both are learning. The 2 hour scream is over. It is the data now, not a disaster. So if you lost your cool or stayed in yellow level all day just to survive, that is okay. You did exactly what you needed to do to get to this moment of quiet. So tomorrow is a fresh start. So you have new tools. You know about the gut, you know about the sensory substitution, you know about how the triage of your day would work. Before you go to bed, write down one tiny thing that went um, right today. So, did they look at you for a second? Did they eat a meal without a struggle? So, focus on that 1% win. That is the seed for tomorrow's progress. So, you are the bridge between your child and the rest of the world. So, it is a heavy bridge to carry, but you don't have to carry it perfectly. You just have to keep standing. You, you've got this, and we are in this with you. We're all together.
So, talking about the scenario where everywhere we see the parameters of success are measurable, right? So, how do we redefine success when our child's journey doesn't look like everyone else's?
Uh, Redefining success is perhaps the most courageous thing a parent can do. In a world that measures wins by grades, sports trophies, or polite conversation at the dinner table, our children are often judged by a yardstick that wasn't built for them. So I've learned that success isn't about fixing autism or reaching a typical milestone. Success is about functional independence and emotional safety. So on the days that feel like a total failure, reach in and read three reach in and read three of them. Like, remind yourself that mountain is high, but you are climbing it. Success is a direction, not a destination. So, if you are moving toward more communication and less pain, you are winning. Your child's journey doesn't have to look like anyone else's because their mountain is uniquely theirs. So, and every inch they climb with you is a testament to your strength and their resilience. So, there is no comparison at all. They're unique. Every child is different.
I guess with this, we have come to the end of session. Let me check if I have any further questions. Okay. Okay, then I guess we can end up the session. Thank you so much for your precious time and your inputs. Our parents who are is watching this live stream will be delighted and enlightened to know more about the reasons for a behavior and how to manage them, because you have beautifully explained all these aspects so that parents out there can understand what is to be done and how it is to be done.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And with
So,
this, we are ending the session.
before we go, I just want to say a sincere thank you to Dr. Arshia for giving a voice to these stories. To the parents and the caregivers listening, thank you for your time. And but more importantly, thank you for your relentless heart. So I know that some days thank you is the last thing you feel, and the work you do behind closed doors, the diaper changes, the sensory prep, the sleepless nights often goes unseen. So please know that by being here today and looking for a better way to understand your child, you are already the hero of their story. So I'm honored to walk this path alongside you as a fellow parent and a professional. So we are building a more compassionate world, one behavioral detective at a time. So thank you for letting me be a part of your journey today.
Thank you. And with this, we are winding up the session. I am Dr. Asha here signing off for Psych Talks. Stay tuned. Thank you.